So anybody who follows this stuff closely can tell you that the United States healthcare system is an abysmal joke. And the reason I say that is because it's for profit and all the incentives are fucked up, right? We are the only developed country that doesn't have one version or another of a universal healthcare system. Some do single payer, some do multi-payer, some have a public option. There's different ways of doing it, but we're the only developed country that doesn't have one version or another of universal healthcare. The core of the cancer, by the way, it is the for-profit health insurance companies. Now, what is an insurance company? That is you paying a company where you're saying to them, hey, in case some shit happens, when I get sick, when I need to go to the hospital, when I need help, I've been paying you every month, you pay the bill, right? Pay you X amount every month. When I actually need help, you pay the bill. As you all know, if you live in this country and you've been here long enough and you've had experience with it, what happens? Well, most of the time something happens and they go, nah, it's cool, bro. I'll pay for it, but first you got to pay the first $5,000. I've been paying you $700 a month. Now something happens and I got to pay $5,000 out of pocket? If you're lucky, it's like you have to pay $1,000 or $2,000 out of pocket. Who has that kind of money sitting around? I pay you $700 every month and I got to pay $1,000 or $2,000 or $5,000 out of pocket. Who can afford that? So basically, understand, it is a glorified scam. The health insurance company is an unnecessary, rapacious, for-profit mafia middleman that all they do is get in between you and your doctor and price gouge you. The other thing they do is limit where you can go. God help you if you have to go to a doctor that's out of network or a hospital that's out of network, then you're on the hook for all of it, right? And so this was my issue with Obamacare, is that we really should have done single payer Medicare for all. But even if you couldn't get that through, at the very least you needed a public option where there's a government option to compete with the private sector, right? But we didn't get any of that. We got what was effectively a right-wing healthcare reform, which had an individual mandate system, which basically means you are now forced by law, if you don't get Medicaid or Medicare, if you don't apply for those, if you can't get those, well, then you need to pay a for-profit health insurance company, and we're mandating that you do it. If you don't do it, you pay a fine, right? So that was my issue with Obamacare. Now, it was better than nothing. At least we moved the ball a little bit in the right direction and got tens of millions more people healthcare. That's good. That's good. But the core of the rot in the system still exists. These insurance companies need to be abolished. There is no reason for an unnecessary for-profit rapacious mafia middleman getting in between you and your doctor, price gouging you, and then trying to deny you the care you need as much as possible, which is what happens. Well, as you all know, Luigi Mangione killed the head of UnitedHealth, right? A big insurance company, by the way, by the numbers, the worst insurance company where they deny the most claims. Okay. Well, this is the part of the story they don't want you to hear. They don't want you to know about this part. Thankfully, we know about it because of the great work of the outlet More Perfect Union. Investors in UnitedHealth are suing the company for providing too much care. They're upset that UnitedHealth got less aggressive in denying care after their CEO was murdered. And as a result, they're making less money from the health insurance giant. Holy shit. Now do you see the problem with having for-profit businesses in health insurance? The incentive structure is all wrong. They make more money. Their profit margins are bigger the more they deny care. They are incentivized to do a bad job. Holy shit. Holy shit. So look, I mean, it's sort of twisted to say, or feels wrong to say. But if you just connect the dots here, if you just do basic math here, because of what Luigi did, the executives at the company were effectively terrorized into approving more claims and giving more coverage. Wow. And now the investors are like, hey, we want more money. You can't do that. You should be denying more people. Oh my God, this story just shows the rot at the core of this system. Look, it is what it is. There are certain industries, there are certain sectors of the economy that you just can't have the profit motive involved in. You can't have capitalism be the core of it. It's not everything, but certain things, the incentives get all fucked up. Private prison industry, for example. But anyway, here, let's listen to More Perfect Union.
Right now, Luigi Mangione is being arraigned for his alleged role in the murder of Brian Thompson. There are a good amount of protesters, but honestly, I think there's more media people. This trial is taking place in the middle of a much larger conversation about UnitedHealth Group. The outrage spans from activists,
insurance companies delay care for most people that leave the hospital,
to United's own shareholders, local lawmakers, and even Steve Bannon.
There's clearly a seething anger of people that don't feel that the insurance companies and the medical companies are looking out for their interests.
But with so much attention on this trial.
But Steve Bannon supports Trump, who under his time in office, 2.3 million people lost their health insurance, and he still supports Trump. Don't ever let a guy like Steve Bannon mislead you, because he's a charlatan. He's a con man.
I wanted to know, has it done anything to stop United's own quest to control every aspect of the American healthcare system? I worked on a video investigating United Healthcare 2 years ago, together with fellow producer Sean Morrow. That video got a resurgence of attention in the last few months, and the comments made it very clear that beyond the anger, people were looking for real change.
A major debate has erupted over the murder of UnitedHealthcare CEO Brian Thompson over who exactly is the real villain. There's a callousness to the industry as a whole.
It delivers efficiency, but their definition of efficiency is returning as much value to their investors as possible.
I wanted to talk to Sean about a real-world example of what that change could look like.
So I see you've got this new spicy UnitedHealth story to share.
I'm gonna tell you a story that I got obsessed with. It's got everything. It's got pissed off patients.
Why are all the doctors leaving?
It's got burned out doctors.
If they're a public company, they've got to please their shareholders.
It's got healthcare lobbyists.
The purpose of them opposing the bill was so that this wouldn't become a national model that other states would follow.
And actually, this one might have a happy ending. This story is going to take us 3,000 miles away from New York to the state of Oregon. For 30 years, the city of Eugene has had this trusted institution serving a ton of its residents. It's called the Oregon Medical Group.
Some of these patients had 15-year relationships or longer with their doctors.
And that all changed in 2020 when it was bought by Optum.
Optum is, of course, owned by UnitedHealth Group.
I found a doctor at Optum with the answers I needed.
Optum buys Oregon Medical Group and causes this huge chain of events that causes thousands of people to lose their doctor.
Oregon Medical Group was bought out by Optum in 2020. A lot of doctors quit, leaving patients without a new doctor.
This happened with my mom too. My mom's a physical therapist, and they had a small clinic or something like that, and they got bought out by a bigger one. And those people come in and they make everything objectively worse, and people lose the care that they need.
This woman named Lisa Fragola, she was actually diagnosed with breast cancer, and around the same time she lost her primary care provider.
I had received a letter from Oregon Medical Group saying I no longer had a provider. So when I got an irregular mammogram, I experienced a lot of anxiety and fear because I wasn't sure how to navigate my health care.
And this isn't just like a Pacific Northwest problem, right? Optum is buying up doctors' offices across the country. They're, I think, one of the largest employers of physicians nationwide now.
They're the largest.
Since the acquisition, the group has lost 32 doctors, leaving remaining staff overwhelmed and patients without care even a year later.
In Eugene, these doctors really did not like practicing medicine for the sake of UnitedHealthcare shareholders.
My office has heard from a couple dozen physicians. They describe the ways, both small ways and big ways, where they feel their independence is being corroded by the ownership structures in place.
That's Ben Bowman, the majority leader for Oregon's House of Representatives.
The patient might not know that it was a corporate owner, for example, who said you only get 15 minutes with your doctor, even though the doctor might believe that the patient needs 20 or 30 minutes to have a proper exam.
So a bunch of doctors did the hard thing. They just left, leading to this huge shortage of doctors in Eugene.
Thousands of people living in Eugene lost their primary care provider. They would call up for an appointment and they would be told that their doctor no longer worked there. What that really stood out for me was just how many people felt, I guess I would use the word deceived or misled. Quite a few reported this to me, that they were told it was because of their insurance. And so they could change to an insurance plan that would help them access care, which just happened to be owned by UnitedHealthcare.
So Optum basically made it so hard for these doctors to work by making these ridiculous demands to save money, not for patient care or anything like that, but just to enrich these shareholders, that the doctors were just like, we can't do this anymore, which is a totally understandable and respectable decision.
As we have previously reported, letters from Optum informed former OMG patients their doctors were leaving, and no replacements were available.
The most wild thing about this story is that the doctors couldn't even tell their patients that they had left. They had signed these non-competes, so they couldn't tell them, and they couldn't practice in the area. If you were someone like Lisa Fragola with a new cancer diagnosis, you may not have known what was going on.
It's taken many people in my community 2 years to find a new primary care provider.
There was one local news story about a woman who couldn't refill a medication because she just couldn't get a doctor at Oregon Medical Group. Lots of other people, including Lisa, received a letter.
It basically said, we don't have anybody to assign to you, so good luck. and take off.
Not only did they lose their doctor, but they were told their doctor couldn't say like, hey, I'm going to this new place, right?
Yeah, and as I understand it, with any non-compete, like that's poaching clients. That's competing with Optum. So they couldn't do that, even though there was no doctors at Oregon Medical Group to be able to see these people.
Straight to jail. This country has to grow up in the sense that we need to have the realization that oftentimes corporate criminals could have just as bad of an impact or an even worse impact than somebody who does a robbery or does a murder or does a grape. Like, this sort of stuff is so immensely criminal, they should get life in prison for this series of decisions which ruined people's lives.
We're absolutely at an inflection point in this country when it comes to the corporatization of healthcare, without a doubt in my mind. There is a fundamental tension between a clinician who has an ethical duty to their patients, who took an oath to serve the interests of their patients, and fiduciary responsibility of a corporation or private equity firm who has a duty to their shareholders to maximize their profit.
It's not just Oregon.
So much of it to me comes down to dollars and cents, to the fact that we've put like a profit motive in something that shouldn't be about profit. It should be about care.
There's this report by Congressman Pat Ryan. He has a lot of constituents in the Hudson Valley area. Up there, Optum purchased practices like Caremount Medical, Crystal Run Healthcare, a ton of practices all up and down the Hudson Valley. Congressman Ryan conducted a survey of 1,800 people, and 41% reported that the quality of their healthcare went down after Optum acquired the practice.
Wow.
And Optum's whole thing is they're going to make things more efficient and cheaper, but Ryan's office is finding that not only is the care getting worse, it's getting more expensive. So it is getting more efficient and it is getting more cost-effective for the executives, for the shareholders, but not for the patients, the people that a healthcare company should be theoretically taking care of.
Meanwhile, the Justice Department seems to be trying to make an example out of Luigi Mangione. Pam Bondi explicitly told federal prosecutors to seek the death penalty, which led to what I think is an unexpected statement from the lawyer of a man in a murder trial. While claiming to protect against murder, the federal government moves to commit the premeditated, state-sponsored murder of Luigi. By doing this, they are defending the broken, immoral, and murderous healthcare industry that continues to terrorize the American people.
God damn. Karen Friedman, Agnafilio. Goodness gracious.
Back to Oregon. Lisa Fragola was able to get the care she needed outside of an Optum-run facility, and then she decided to run for office. She ran for the Oregon House of Representatives.
Lisa Fragola announced her run Monday afternoon.
Investments in education, investments in housing production, and making sure that we have good paying jobs and family benefits for the people that live in our community.
While she was running for office and knocking on doors, she heard so many stories of people who had also lost their doctors because of the actions of Optum. And she won, and with the majority leader over there, Ben Bowman, they're supporting this legislation to make sure that corporations like United cannot dictate how doctors practice medicine.
Most states in the country have what's called a corporate practice of medicine law or corporate practice of medicine doctrine. Basically what it says is that physicians or advanced practice providers have to own and control medical clinics. These are non-controversial laws. Republican states, Democratic states, they're widespread throughout the country. The problem is there are loopholes in these laws where basically large corporations and private equity firms have figured out that they can be in compliance with the law on paper by having a friendly physician or captive physician own the practice.
Representative Bowman's bill would change that by restricting corporations, like Optum, from taking decision-making away from doctors in clinical decisions. It also restricts non-compete and non-disclosure agreements, which caused many of the problems and confusion in Eugene.
Senate Bill 951 was introduced to address a rising trend in this country that is happening not in response to public policy choices, but in response to profiteering from some very large corporations. At its core, the bill is just about ensuring doctors are the ones making decisions in exam rooms.
A version of that bill was actually introduced last year, went up for a vote, and passed the House.
Great, problem solved.
Not quite.
Okay.
We had bipartisan support from senators of both parties, but because of some procedural maneuvering, the bill died without a vote in the Senate.
That seems incredibly unfair, like a small minority of the government there completely changing everything.
Good news though, Bowman is trying again with support from some newly electeds like Lisa Fragola, but has attracted the attention of some pretty powerful people.
The head of Optum Oregon said, and I quote, "The experiment of physician-directed healthcare
in this country over 50 or 70 years didn't work. It didn't work.
It didn't work." That was his quote. I was told by one lobbyist that the purpose of them opposing the bill was so that this wouldn't become a national model that other states would follow. That was explicitly stated to me in my legislative office with my staff present.
A similar bill passed in California in 2024, but got vetoed by Gavin Newsom.
Oh my God. Homie is cooked. Remember this. Remember this when he pretends like he's the leftiest and he's the best one to take on the Republicans.
Was introduced in Vermont as well.
And so while UnitedHealthcare, like the insurance branch of this conglomerate, is trying to squeeze more money out of people with all these denials, another part of the larger umbrella company is trying to protect this other part of their business where they can profit off of healthcare clinics, the actual care, by slashing staff, slashing time with doctors, and maybe even defrauding Medicare.
If UnitedHealth...
In 2024, UnitedHealth overcharged cancer patients by 1,000% while raking in $14.4 billion in profits. Wow, bro.
In addition to doing the insurance, started buying up doctors' offices and pharmacies. How would you feel about that?
That seems like it would be bad, like a monopoly on healthcare by companies that are already profiting off of denying care to people.
If I told you United was already the largest employer of physicians in the United States and already owns pharmacies like Optum, how does that make you feel?
Ugh, nauseated but not surprised.
Senate Bill 951A, having received a constitutional majority, is declared passed.
So they just voted on the organ bill in the Senate. That's where it died last year. And I want to play this clip for you.
Recognize Senator Bonham.
The fundamental question, of course, is should a large conglomerate multinational corporation decide whether or not my mom gets a new hip when she breaks her hip? I don't think anybody's going to say yes.
That is a Republican.
Yeah, I mean, this kind of like anti-corporate attitude is kind of becoming more prevalent.
Watching this, it was kind of incredible seeing bipartisan agreement that corporations should not dictate medicine.
We should be clear, though, that at the national level, that's not the case. Like, every Republican will bend the knee to big business at the national level. At the state level, it's a little different because there's not as much big money corrupting it. At the federal level, I mean, shit. Some Republicans might talk a good game from time to time about this stuff, but when push comes to shove and it's time to vote, they will bend the knee to the corporate overlords.
Even if their solutions were different. But nonetheless, the Democrat version of the bill passed the Senate 21-8.
Now it goes to the House?
Yeah, and they are very confident it will pass there.
And there's a ton of other developments that I feel like aren't getting the kind of attention they deserve. There was actually a push by the shareholders to audit their prior authorization process. United lobbied the Securities and Exchange Commission, the SEC, to block the vote, and then the whole thing just got withdrawn.
The state of Arkansas just banned pharmacy benefit managers who negotiate drug prices and reimburse pharmacies.
By the way, Elon Musk killed a bill that would have banned pharmacy benefit managers for the whole country. Remember that? Those are literally the middlemen who price gouged to make medicine more expensive, and Elon Musk went to bat for them and killed a bill that would have gotten rid of them.
Operating their own pharmacies. One of the big players in that space is United, which often pushes patients to their own Optum pharmacies. Do you think the attention the trial is attracting is going to help healthcare reform in the United States?
I think so, because we need attention somewhere, right?
Talking to all these people, it's not just anger. I mean, there is anger, but there's also hope. Luigi's trial, I'm hearing, was just set for 2026. We're gonna keep following the story. So if you have healthcare stories to share, and especially if you work inside the insurance industry, send us a line, stories@perfectunion.us.
More Perfect Union, man. Go subscribe to them. They do some awesome work. Investors in UnitedHealth are suing the company for providing too much care. They're upset that UnitedHealth got less aggressive in denying care after their CEO was murdered, and that as a result, they're making less money from the health insurance giant. That says it all right there. We should ban private for-profit health insurance. It should be banned. We should have a single insurer. That's single payer. That's the government. That's what we should do. You get sick, you get help. That's the end of it. You pay nothing out of pocket. Like, again, virtually every other developed country has universal health care, one version or another. We don't here. It's time to end that absolute nightmare. All right, guys, that's the show, y'all. Thank you for listening. Everybody do me a favor. Please subscribe to the channel. That helps out big time and costs you nothing at all. You can sign up for Crystal Kyle and Friends on Substack. That's below. You could support the show on Patreon, $2 a month, $5 a month, because remember, this is real independent media. I've never done an ad read, never talked to an advertiser. So thank you to everybody who supports us. And also go subscribe to Corin's World on YouTube, where we're posting the Kyle and Corin podcast. We haven't missed a week yet since we did it over there. All right, guys, I'll see you tomorrow. Everybody have a great rest of your day. Hey, y'all, do me a favor and like and subscribe. It helps out big time in the algorithm. Click the bell as well for notifications when videos drop, and watch that video on screen right now. You know you want to.